The car manufacturer Nissan is to go all electric in Britain by 2030 despite Rishi Sunak's net zero delay. I'm going to read more into this from the Independent, guys. Let's go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is REGANELITE here with an article from the Independent with the headline that Nissan are to go all electric in Britain by 2030 despite Rishi Sunak's net zero delay. The Nissan chief executive saying there is no going back now on all electric commitments. So I think this is a great decision by them, and I'm going to tell you a little bit why when we just read a little bit into it, guys. So Nissan has vowed to make the switch to all electric by 2030 despite Rishi Sunak's pushing back a ban on the sale of new petrol and diesel cars to 2035. The Japanese car manufacturer's chief executive Makoto Uchida said there is no going back now as he committed his company to the initial deadline set by the Prime Minister. Sunak's controversial pushback on the ban on the sales of new petrol and diesel cars as part of a watering down the government's environmental commitments last Friday. The controversial move came after years of efforts from car manufacturers to transition to electric vehicles by 2030 and has attracted criticism from environmentalist businesses, international allies and some Tory MPs. Nissan is a major employer of the UK with 7,000 staff working across 3 sites, including its main manufacturing hub in Sunderland. Unveiling the company's latest battery-powered car design in London on Monday, Mr. Uchida said Nissan will make the switch to full electric by 2030 in Europe. We believe it is the right thing to do for our business, our customers and for the planet. More than 1 million customers have already joined our journey and experienced the fun of a Nissan electric car, and there is no turning back now. Downing Street has faced backlash from car manufacturers over its decision to push back the petrol car ban. Ford UK chairman Lisa Branken said the pushing back of the deadline in 2035 would threaten the future of investment in the UK. She says our businesses need 3 things from the UK government: ambition, commitment and consistency. A relaxation of 2030 would undermine all 3. We need a policy focus trained on boosting the EV electric vehicles market in the short term and supporting consumers while headwinds are strong, infrastructure remains immature and tariff looms and the cost of living is high. The ban on new petrol and diesel car sales was announced by Boris Johnson in November 2020. As recently as July, the government described the data as immovable. So in July they already said that they had no plans to move it whatsoever, and they already U-turned on it. But inaction man Rishi Sunak U-turned on the ban, claimed that such net zero targets would impose unacceptable costs on ordinary people. He never really gave the details in that speech of how it would cost. This idea, guys, that this going to benefit us by stopping this is not the solution. The Prime Minister said he would stick to promote to reduce the UK's emissions of climate warming greenhouse gases to net zero by 2050, but with a more pragmatic, proportionate and realistic approach. His decision came after the government handed out millions of funding to car manufacturers to boost the production of electric vehicles. Earlier this month, BMW's own Mini reportedly received a £75 million taxpayer subsidy to convert its factory in Oxford to all electric by 2030. Meanwhile, Jaguar Land Rover received £500 million in government funding to build an electric vehicle factory worth £4 million. So, I have to say, this is a great decision by Nissan, and I think it's a smart one as well. And the reason why I think it's a smart one is because, well, actually, maybe it's not a smart one now that I think about it. It's a gamble, is what it is. I think it's a gamble because if the Conservatives somehow win the next general election, because they can still win it, this would undermine businesses significantly if the Conservatives were to keep staying in power. This commitment to changing everything by 2030 was so important. We've talked about this a bit before, but I think Nissan's point of view is them, well, who cares what this government says because they're not going to be in power next year. I think that's their position, that's their kind of thought process, and I think that's what a lot of other car manufacturers are looking at as well. And they're thinking to themselves, we can still stick to our plans because we don't think they're going to be here next year. But that's also a massive gamble as well. And businesses shouldn't have to gamble that big. Like, I know we're very likely that we're going to have either a Labour majority or a Labour Lib Dem coalition of some sort. That's what seems to be the most likely outcome, or even just a hung parliament where there's appears to be no end. It's unlikely there'll be a Conservative win, but I think they're looking at it from that kind of position of, we can still keep this project because we know that an incoming Labour government are not going to stick to that, and they have said, Labour, that they're going to stick to the 2030 target, and it makes so much more sense for them to do so. So good on Nissan for doing that. As for, like, I kind of, it does frustrate me a little bit. Like, we have thrown so much taxpayers' money towards these car manufacturers to switch to electric. I will say though, if it benefits in the long term, okay, but that's a lot of money we've given to some of these. Like, we've given Jaguar Land Rover £500 million in government funding. 500. That's a lot of money, £75 million that we give to BMW Mini to apparently taxpayer subsidy convert its factory in Oxford to all electric. The ambition is there for us to switch within the car manufacturing industry. So let's hope it stays. Let's hope that when Labour come in, they don't do a U-turn or change the subsidies and stick to the 2030 target. So what do you guys think? What do you think of Nissan's decision to just keep on rolling, pretty much? Do you think they're playing a bit? They're playing a bit of a dangerous game here, because their mindset is probably thinking what we're thinking, along the lines of, well, they're not going to be here next year anyway, so who cares what they think? Is that the right way to think about it, or is it a case of we're still just going to stick to our plans? Because businesses are concerned, obviously, by this decision by Rishi Sunak and his party. Let me know down in the comment section below what you think. Like, share, and subscribe as always, guys, and I hope to catch you all very, very soon.